Okay, so my original plan was to do a second grade 10-week, um, well, it builds off of this, so it was second grade 10-week project that consisted of how the life cycle of plants. So in that concept, in that structure of time, the students would be planting a lima bean, writing to a pen pal that was in the school, and by the end of the 10 weeks, they would gradually get to building and constructing a garden. And this garden would be part of the STEM community stamp. And in the project, I had proposed that only second graders would be doing this garden. But I have learned so much more, and I realized that it doesn't have to be just limited to second grade, but it can be the whole school, and it can even go upon, or not upon, but further into even high school students, which is amazing. So what brought me to this realization was that I had spoken to a local parent who, sorry, I have to start whispering, a local parent who is involved in their child's school. She's a pediatrician as well, and the reason she started it was so she can bring awareness to healthy eating habits and just being more healthy as far as, understanding where we get our food and how different ways of getting that food, and not limiting to not labeling it as a farmer, but as agricultural environmentalist. I can't remember what word she specifically used, but that was interesting. Like taking the label off of farming and labeling it as something else, and having students realize that they don't have to be labeled as a farmer in order to grow their food and to sell their food, and different ways of maintaining their garden as well. So what I learned is that second grade can still keep their planting concept, like they can still plant and grow the seeds and plant them, but for example, the students in kindergarten or pre-K, if your school has that, can be in charge of like the composting and getting worms, and that can be part of a class. And I'm jumping, so please bear with me, because I keep getting these thoughts and I keep remembering. But the lady that I talked to was talking about how I lost it. Anyway, and then second, third graders can plant, and do the seeds and then actually plant them in the garden. And then, fourth and third graders, or fourth and fifth graders, can be the management team. And this part I saw is, they're building a website. They're coming up with ideas how over the summer who's going to come and who's going to water the plants, take care of the garden, who's going to fix things if something happens, who's going to contact adults if they need it. What happens to the items that are needing to be harvested? Where does they go? There's an advertising team, photography team, a budget team, and what this lady does is, I think it's like every Friday or so on, so it just depends on her schedule, but she's not a teacher, so she doesn't come up with the, standards like a teacher would in a classroom, but she kind of just pitches these ideas, and the teachers can include them in a standard and to key them in, so it does make sense. But she pitches these ideas to the teachers, and just like the pre-K, giving them composting and then tying that into something. But she pitches these ideas, like the website and the business, and she calls them colleagues, and it gives a whole new meaning to this. Also, they're in the part where they're actually have flowers, so it's not just vegetables. They also have flowers, and they have other plants that kind of give it a symbiotic relationship. So that one thrives, and the other one thrives as well. They're both in a mutual relationship where they're benefiting from each other. And they're going to sell them. So they're selling them for fundraising for the, I think, 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip, which is very cool. So they had the opportunity. They also had an opportunity for funding. What they did is they presented their garden proposal to the school committee, and some, I don't know if it was parents or local, can't think of the name, just local citizens, community, had decided to fund them, at least give them some money, a small grant, because they can't get city grants or anything like that. They can, since it's a private school. So there's some ways they're getting money, and they're actually working pretty good, especially when they have to present in a bigger crowd and it's not the teacher proposing the idea to get a grant. So the students are learning so much more than just planning this item, putting it in the ground, and waiting for next year's students to pick them, which was basically what I had done, because it does take 3 to 4 years to actually establish a good garden, and it's going to fail and it's going to thrive, so you have to bear with it. And another thing I also learned is, she is very involved in this garden, and she's trying to hand it off to teachers, so she can get some break. She doesn't have to do all the work. So, in my thing is, I would really like the whole school involved, or at least one teacher for one grade involved, a lot more than just me personally, which it wouldn't bother me at all, but I would like more teachers involved, because that's what it is. It's a community STEM project, and you want to reach as many people as you can. She also mentioned how sometimes they have lettuce is a cold plant, so you can do it over winter months, or create a space for that. And they would make salads for the teachers. So, and some would go to the students depending on, it's a smaller school, so they're able to do that. But it's a really great incentive for teachers to be like, oh, I can make my own food too, if they forget a lunch, something like that. So I've learned a lot, and I know, for one, it's not a one-person show, and I would definitely try to get more involvement within the school, not just students, but school, the teachers, and the parents, especially over the summer, because a lot of crops you harvest them in the summer, so that's kind of a bummer, but it's manageable. Budget-wise, students, it would be a great concept for students to understand budget. Nobody budgets these days, so they can understand that, understand the grants, in a sense. Also, tools, paying for items like that, what they need, how many they need. So there's so many standards you can do, and it's across a whole range of grades. So that's something that I have learned, that this is not something just for 2nd grade. It can be all grades, from pre-KK all the way up to even high school, because she had talked about how students can determine what the plant needs by its soil, and in turn you can, manufacture some kind of products to help enrich the plant. There's also things that you can, other options is irrigation. So students are constantly learning what best supports this garden and things like that. And they're very involved. These students were crazy involved in the 45 short minutes that they had. And 45 minutes is not enough. So, longer 45 minutes than 45 minutes, definitely, for class time. And, you know, with STEM, you're integrating, so you can maybe expand that out just a little bit. Or at least do it more than over a couple days instead of just one day. But so more teachers, more involvement with students, parents, time, plans, you know, have an agenda every time you meet. Just stuff like that. So I've learned so much. But the main thing is it does not have to be limited to one grade. And that teacher does not have to be stuck. She can involve so many other parents, so many teachers, and just, it's amazing. So this is one project that I hope, or that I've already learned from, but that I hope if I can get a job that I will implement in my new school and propose an idea, because it's amazing and every kid needs to know, at least be in a position where they feel responsible and important, because each person can have a role in this. Even if they don't like to dig dirt, they can take photos and to advertise and things like that. So it's opened my eyes, and it can be connected. You just have to work the backwards design, and I think that's really cool with this concept, because it can be a backwards design in a sense. So this is really fun, and I've learned a lot.